Hello, and welcome to the Gradulting workshop series. At today's workshop, we will be talking about preparing to buy your first home. My name is Debbie McCutsky, and I'm the coordinator of services and programs for Graduate Student Legal Aid, and I use she, her pronouns. The Gradulting workshop series is just one of several services offered by Graduate Student Legal Aid. We offer legal consultations for general issues, like let's say a student is having trouble with his or her landlord. A student has gotten into an auto accident or needs a contract reviewed. Our staff attorney, Zach Mundy, will help with all of those types of issues. We also have a specialty attorney who handles immigration issues. So for international students who have questions about immigration and perhaps what to do after graduation, you can request an appointment for that. We have 2 student advocates on staff who help students who've been charged by the university with a violation of the Code of Conduct or the Code of Academic Integrity. And I'm a notary, so I can help notarize your documents, whether they're related to academics or personal issues. Finally, all of our services are free. You've already paid for them because you have paid your graduate student fee. So if you'd like more information about what we do, visit our website, send us an email, give us a call. We're here to help. So before I introduce today's speaker, I have a few announcements. Automatic closed captioning has been enabled for those who want to read along, so you can turn that on. We welcome your questions and comments, so post them in the chat and direct them to everyone. I will be sharing them with the speaker, and if something's not quite clear, we may call on you to clarify your question. Near the end of the workshop, we will post a link to a survey. We only ask 4 questions, so please just take a minute to give us some feedback. How did we do today? And finally, we will email links to the survey, the slides, and the recording by tomorrow afternoon. Probably happen tomorrow morning or maybe even this afternoon, but we will follow up with all of this good information we're sharing today. So let's get started with the topic of the day, first time home buying. And I am so pleased to introduce our speaker. She's new to the Gradulting workshop series. Her name is Melanie Gamble. She is the principal broker for 212 Degrees Realty, and she's the president of the Prince George's County Association of Realtors. Welcome, Ms. Gamble. Please share your presentation with us and help us get started in preparing to buy our first home.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Debbie, and for the entire department here. I really appreciate the opportunity to come before you today. And as much as I love speaking to boxes with names, it's always interesting in this virtual environment. You know, I don't get to see smiling faces all the time, but that is okay. I totally understand. We are typically multitasking and doing a myriad of things, and this will be in your rear view. Let me make this in presentation mode for you. There you go. So let's find your new home. I did share with Debbie that I am certainly open to taking your questions at any time, but I will tell you, if you see that I am on a tangent, meaning that I'm rolling and like I'm rolling like a boulder down the hill, just let me roll, okay? Because if you stop me, I probably will forget the point that I was trying to make. So, but without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And you know, whenever I speak, I like to give a little bit about me, because I know when I'm sitting in an audience, sometimes, especially if, you know, I'm new or the person is new to my environment, I want to know, well, what qualifies them to come before me to present and tell me anything. So just a little bit about me, and I hope that this helps. I am a licensed real estate broker in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. I am married to Jay Gamble. We have been married since July the 1st of 2000. I am a boy mom. I have 3 sons. I currently serve as the president of the Prince George's County Association of Realtors. I also sit on the executive committee for the Maryland Realtors, and I serve at the National Association of Realtors. So I serve at all 3 levels in my industry, and this is my absolute chosen profession. As you can see here, in 1991, I was just like you. I had just finished my undergraduate degree and going into grad school. So I actually do hold a master's degree in public administration, which you do not need to sell real estate. However, we have it, and it has allowed me to have a tremendous trajectory here in this industry. And I am just so thankful for the ability to work in an industry that I absolutely love, and to be able to serve people at all levels at all times. But that just gives you a little bit about me, where I am. And like I said, in 1991, I was sitting just like you, and I was sharing with Debbie that I wish I had known or even had thought about purchasing a home at that time in my life. Because obviously the sooner you buy real estate, the sooner you start building equity. So that is always a very good thing. In the next 20 minutes, these are the things that we will discuss today. And if you do have questions, feel free to raise your hand. Debbie is monitoring the chat for me, so she will interject and let me know that we have a burning question. But I do want to go over with you agency relationships, financing, search criteria, the home search process. What does it mean to go under contract? And then finally, what does it look like going to closing? So agency relationships. In the state of Maryland, you can only be represented either as a buyer or a seller. There is such thing called dual agency, which the District of Columbia allows with no problem, meaning that I can work on both sides of the table and I can represent you with no problem. That does not happen in Maryland. In Maryland, there is such thing called as disclosed dual agency, meaning that if I work for Keller Williams and I'm representing you as a buyer, and we go to see a house that is also listed by a Keller Williams agent, you have to sign saying that you are in agreement with being represented not by the same person, but by the same brokerage, because there is a perception that there may be some type of conflict. Typically, there is not, and it is fine. And there's no reason why you would not consent for the dual agency. But in the state of Maryland, it is a requirement that you know upfront how you're being represented. It is very important when you are looking for a home that you sign a buyer broker agreement with the person who is representing you. Therefore, there will be no disagreement, or there will be no confusion over who that agent is representing. Just like the person who listed the house, they are totally representing the seller. That is why you don't want to go to an open house without your agent. You don't want to walk into model homes without your agent. You don't want to go looking for houses anywhere without the person who is representing you, because they're the only person in the transaction that has your best interest at heart. So just always keep that in mind. The very, very first step when you are going to look for a home is to secure, well, in the vernacular of the youth, securing the bag, right? You've got to make sure you've got the money to go and purchase. You want to speak with a lender. That is your very, very first step. So lenders come in all shapes and sizes, just like real estate agents and brokers. So I suggest just finding someone that would be a really good fit for you. A couple of the questions that came in prior to the presentation were, number one, can you purchase a home if you're here with an F1 or a J1 visa? And I will tell you, while I am not a lender, but most of the lenders that I spoke with to get an answer to that question is most lenders will not loan money for those types of visas because you're not supposed to be working. So when you go to a lender, one of the ways that you will be able to get financing from them is you have to show that you're able to pay them back, right? So if they loan you money, it's just like you're going to your friend and you say, hey, can I borrow $5? And if your friend is like, well, if you don't have $5 and you don't have a job, like, how are you going to pay me back? So I don't know if I want to loan you $5. So it's the same with the bank, right? You go to the bank and you're like, hey, I need $500,000 to go buy this house. And the bank's like, okay, well, how am I going to get my money back? Like, okay, you have great credit, that's fine, but do you have a source of income? And because with those particular visas, you're not supposed to have this significant amount of income, you, like I said, most lenders will not loan with those types of visas. However, that does not mean you cannot purchase a home in this country. You just have to have the cash. So if you happen to have one of those types of visas, you can purchase. You just got to have the money to do so. But when we were talking about financing, again, I would just encourage you to find a lender. I have a whole list of lenders that I work with. If you are interested and you need some recommendations after the fact, they can walk you through the process. And then once you get approved, so once the lender says to you, okay, let me see, I'm just going to look at one of the names. So I see Sharon is on the call with us. So they say, okay, Sharon, we've looked at your documentation. So the documentation that they typically need, they like to see 2 years. If you've been working, they're going to ask for 2 years of your income statements. They typically look at 2 months of your last bank statements for the last 2 months. And like I said, they want to know a source of income. So they are going to ask to see your W-2s, or if you're a 1099 employee, not employee, but a 1099 person, then you often are going to have to provide bank statements as well as additional information on your business. And whatever it is that you're doing from a 1099 perspective, usually there's a little bit more documentation involved. But again, those are all things that you'd want to gather and have ready when you do go to speak with a lender about obtaining financing to go out and purchase your home. So Sharon has done that. Sharon has gathered all of her information. She's gone to the lender. The lender says, okay, Sharon, you are qualified for a home at $500,000. So Sharon's like, okay, so this is like, now, like, you have the golden ticket, right? You know that you can spend $500,000 on a house. So we go looking. So number 3 on the bullet here is search criteria. What is your search criteria? I will tell you, I always ask my clients, tell me what it is that you absolutely, your dream home, whatever that is. I mean, just throw it all out there. Just throw it all out there. Do you want a fireplace? How many bedrooms would you like to have? How many bathrooms would you like to have? Does it need to have a yard? Do you want 2 stories, 3 stories? Would you prefer for everything to be on one level? Like, what are the things that are absolutely most important to you? Those are the things that you want to think about when purchasing a home. I know sometimes, I know for me, I'll just speak for me. When I graduated from college, as I was just sharing with you guys my timeline, when I was going to purchase my first home, I remember I lived in Atlanta, Georgia. And at that time, rent was like $700 or $800 a month, right? And then I just happened to be working for a real estate broker. And he was like, look, I can put you into a condo and it's only going to cost you $500 a month. And I'm like, oh, well, how do you do that? At that time, and this was I'm dating myself, so this was like 1996 in Atlanta, Georgia. At that time, FHA had something called a non-qualifying assumable loan, meaning I could assume someone else's existing loan and I did not have to go through any of the process that I was just telling you about. You didn't have to qualify. All you had to do was come to an agreement with a person that you were buying the property from. What did they want for you to assume their loan? And in this case, in 1996, in Atlanta, Georgia, I only had to give the owners $4,000. That's all they wanted. Now, I'm saying that's all, but at that time, like I said, I've been out of college, a couple of years by that time, finished grad school. And yes, I was working, but I just hadn't saved up a lot of money, because if you think about it, in 1996, having $4,000 today, that's like, just having $25,000 or $30,000 laying around. I just didn't have that kind of money laying around, but I was able to scrape it together, because I'm like, look, if I can come up with $4,000, then my monthly outlay is only going to be $500 a month, because literally that was the mortgage that I was assuming from these people. So it's $500 a month for me to own this 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo, which was great, right? It was only $50,000 that I was getting. But anyway, so when I talk about search criteria, so I was sharing that with you guys, because at that time in my life, all I cared about was I was only going to be paying $500 a month. I really didn't care what it was. So that's why I was on this little tangent about search criteria. I didn't care. I was like, if I can pay $500 a month and I can have my own place, great. And I'm going to own it, perfect. That's all I cared about. But some of you, you might be more particular than I was at that time. You might be like, oh no, I specifically need 2 bedrooms, or I need 3 bedrooms, and I need to be 3 levels, and whatever it is you need. But you get that in your mind and share that with your agent, because again, this is the person who's representing you. Your goals are now their goals. They are they have your absolute best interest at heart. So they are going to be here with you every step of the way, making sure that what you say you want is what you get. Now, I don't want to be the one to burst your bubble. However, we are in an exceptionally tight market right now, meaning sellers rule. Right now, sellers rule. So things that you would in a normal market be able to ask for and get, and it wouldn't be any problems, it's very, very challenging. So that's even all the more reason you need somebody who's on your side. It's going to make sure that your desires are being moved forward, but also someone who can educate you on if what you're looking for is realistic or not. Because I can tell you that in this DMV, and I'm sure you guys are probably well aware by now, it's not cheap to live here. Like nowhere around here, it's not cheap at all. So it is also helpful to have someone who can guide you, to tell you, yes, Sharon, what you're asking for, it's very realistic, and we should be able to find that, and we should be able to find it in this area, and and you should be able to spend this amount of money and everything will be fine. The other things when we talk about your search criteria is, do you need to be near public transportation? We know that there are certain parts, specifically in our metro area, we know that the closer in you are, the greater metro access you have. But the further out in the suburbs, so inside the Beltway versus outside the Beltway, we know that the further outside the Beltway you go, the more challenging it may be for you to get to mass transit. So those are other considerations that you have to think about as well when you're looking at your search criteria. And let me go advance to the next slide. So this, I'm sorry. So we talked about financing, and I didn't advance the slides. And so there are a few things that on here that I wanted, before I go too far, that we just talk about. So we talked about choosing a lender. The one thing that I did not go into is whether you go with a bank versus a broker. So some of you may already have existing relationships with a bank, say a Wells Fargo or a Chevy Chase or Bank of America, versus when I told you that I work with lenders, I work with a lot of people who are considered a mortgage broker, meaning they're not a bank, but they do finance properties. They finance people to purchase a home. So there is a difference. Sometimes if you have an existing relationship, specifically with credit unions, oftentimes you can find more favorable rates. But then the other thing is, for people who have unique situations, sometimes going with a mortgage broker is better because they're able to shop around a little more for you. And they oftentimes have relationships far outside of what a bank would be limited to. So they can, search around for you to actually find a solution to whatever your situation may be. And we did talk about some of the other processes on this list, but the other thing is your type of loan. So there are government-backed loans, which you would find with the FHA. When you hear people talking about FHA, VA, USDA, those are loans that require little to no down payment in a lot of instances, and they are government-backed loans. They usually have a lower credit score, minimum credit score for you to qualify for. And typically you don't have to put, like I said, as much money down. Then you have what they call conventional loans, which you find under Fannie and Freddie. And with those conventional loans, typically they are looking for a little higher credit score. And but they usually they have a larger loan limits as well. Credit is very important in all scenarios, but again, with VA and FHA, it's a little bit more lax than it is with conventional loans. And the down payment is different too, regarding if it's conventional or not. And so we did talk about this a little bit in finding your right home, the location, the price, the square footage, bedrooms, bathroom styles, feature. The one thing I didn't mention was schools, so that's something to think about. One of the questions I think someone had posed was, if I'm only looking to own a home for 1 to 3 years, what are some of the things that I may want to consider? Good school systems are always a consideration, but you have to dig a little deeper. I just sat on a task force looking at the school board here in Prince George's County, and I will say that there are certain school districts that have a bad reputation for no good reason, right? You have to dig really deep when you're looking at schools, specifically, regarding certain areas. There are schools are always a hot topic, as you can imagine. And I would just say that you really, really do have to do your own research. You cannot go off of hearsay, because there are rumors that have been floating around for years and years and years all over the DMV, depending on, the school, and an incident that may have happened 50 years ago that has no relevance today. So I would just strongly caution that you do your own research on schools and make the very best decision. Search tools. So the one thing that your agent would have at their disposal is the MLS. And the MLS is basically our contract, though us in the real estate profession, I say it's our contract with one another. It's where we go to put the listings, the homes that people have for sale. It's our repository where we put those in there. And what you see is that they're broadcast. Once those listings are in the MLS, that's how they get to all of these other websites. That's how they get to your Redfins and your Zillows and your Realtor.com. It is through the agents who are actually putting those homes for sale inside of the MLS. And so your agent would have access to the MLS, and they also have the ability to allow you to have access to searching similarly to the way that they would. They can put your information into their portal, and their portal will allow you to go in. It'll allow you to communicate with your agent. You'll be able to, like I said, sort of set up search criteria, and it will also allow you to see things just as soon as they come on the market. And it is actually the most reliable way to see exactly what is available for sale, as opposed to some of the third-party sites that sometimes they are delayed, or sometimes that they don't receive all of the data, because some brokers have opted out of the syndication of their listings, meaning that if I am a broker and I decide, I have 100 listings, but I decide that I don't want my listings syndicated, that means that, your Redfins and your Zillows and all of those sites, they wouldn't be able to pick up my listings. It would only be people who are licensed realtors that would be able to pick up those listings and be able to share with you what's for sale. So it's very important to look at that. But then also there are other ways for you to search. You can search on the websites as I talked. Also yard signs, as you're walking around, you may see where people have put a sign in their yard saying for sale by owner. And again, I would just caution you, all of these other ways, I would still engage a professional to be with you and to go with you every step of the way, because this is not what you do for a living, right? If you are not a realtor, it is not what you do for a living. Whereas someone who has gone through the arduous task of sitting through the course, sitting for their licensing exam, and they actually pass and they have their license, they are out in the business to assist you and anyone else. So I would just strongly encourage you to utilize them. After you have gone out, you've got your money in your hand, you've gone out, you found the house that you want, then you come to making an offer. And what does that look like? So Sharon's found this house, she's approved up to $500,000, but she's only wants to spend $450,000, right? Because at $450,000, her payment is exactly where she wants it to be. So she finds a house that's listed for $450,000, right? So she sits down with her agent does a market analysis for her, which is something that I absolutely recommend you all ask for, is you ask for a market analysis. You ask for the person to say, okay, I see that the house is listed for $450,000, but is that realistic? Like, did they price it too low because they want to get into this bidding war? Or did they price it too high because everybody's telling them it's a seller's market and they want to see what they can get? So you want your agent to do a market analysis for you to make sure that what you're offering actually makes sense, right? So they will assist you in putting the offer together, making sure that it is the right pricing, and then they will present the offer on your behalf. Once they present the offer on your behalf, let's just say they looked at Sharon's offer, And they were like, okay, she's offering $450. She's not asking me for any closing help. She wants to close in 30 days. This is everything I want. We're going to take it. We're going to take her offer. So once that happens, now Sharon is going to go under contract. Now Sharon has what we call a ratified contract, where she's already signed, the seller signed, and they get it back to her. After you go under contract, then that's when you start the additional process of doing a home inspection. And all of these are things that you would have consulted with, and those should be in your offer. Now, again, we're in a market where people are waiving home inspections, people are waiving appraisal contingencies. I'm not saying that you can't do it. It's not something that I necessarily advise, but hey, it's a tight market. People just want the house and they're like, hey, I'll take care of it. Okay, you can certainly, that is certainly something that you could do. But I would just encourage you to, if you can, make sure you get a home inspection. If you're obtaining a loan, you are going to have an appraisal that comes from the bank. You're gonna have to pay for it, and the lender will order it, and somebody will come out and appraise the house to make sure that that $450,000 that they've agreed to loan to Sharon for the house, that the house is actually worth $450,000. So that is very important. And so the first thing up here, it says maintain and monitor dates and deadlines, because when you do your offer, you're going to put that you're going to do a home inspection within, normal is like 7 days, right? So you're going to do your home inspection within 7 days. Hopefully the appraiser is going to get out there within 21 days. You're going to do any other inspections that you want. You need to communicate, make sure that those are all lined up. If for some reason the house needs work, or you have this vision and you want to put your own interior design touches on it, and you're like, oh, I need to go in there before I go to closing. Well, again, that's something that you would have to coordinate with your agent, who would then have to coordinate with the listing agent to make sure you can get access to the property to get in, to see the house again, and to make any changes. Of course, you're not going to do that before closing, but you can certainly meet and get estimates. I often have clients who want, let's just say, blinds, right? And they don't want to wait until they go to closing. They want to go ahead and get the windows measured and get the blinds ordered, because it's going to take 2 to 3, 4 weeks for the blinds to come in anyway. So it gives them time. So once they go to closing, it gives them time to get their blinds in and the people can come. And that's just an example of some of the things that I'm talking about. And it's very important that not only are you in communication with your agent, but also your lender, because at this point, your lender really takes over and becomes very, very important and crucial throughout the remainder of the process. You need the lender in the very beginning, and you need the lender at the end. In the middle is where the agent handles everything for you. But the lender starts us off, and the lender gets us across the finish line. And lastly, after we've done all of that, Sharon had the home inspection, everything was fine. The appraiser came out and they said, oh, the house is worth $460. So Sharon's happy about that. Everything is fine. She gets her final clear to close. Everything is perfect. And we go to closing within 30 to 45 days, or whatever it is that Sharon said that she wanted to do. These are the things that are important. So when you get to closing day, you do need to bring your identification. You definitely have to be at closing. If for whatever reason you cannot be at closing, then you have to get that set up prior to. You have to let the title company know that you're not going to be able to be at closing. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to have to get a power of attorney. If you have to get a power of attorney, your lender has to approve your power of attorney. So you got to keep that in mind. You can't wait till like the day of. because that'll totally mess everything up. You have to get that power of attorney done, and it has to be approved by the lender before you can not show up to closing on your house. And then for the funds that you need to close, most title companies are not accepting certified checks anymore. So you want to check with them on their policy as well. Most of them want you to bring a wire to go to closing. So you want to check on that policy as well. And that brings us, ladies and gentlemen, to the end of this particular portion that I've written and planned. So if there are any questions or comments, I am open to addressing them at this time.
All right, I'll get us started with a question.
Okay.
So could you elaborate about the type of inspections that a buyer might want to consider?
Sure, absolutely. So depending on the age of the home, you'd want to get, of course, a home inspection, right? But then there's also, depending on the age, you may want to test the house for lead if it was built prior to 1978. Most loans are going to require that you get an inspection for termites or wood destroying insects. That is an inspection. And most of the inspection companies will offer that as well. When they're out doing your home inspection, they will ask you, do you want me to go ahead and do a termite as well? So that you also may want to consider getting inspection for radon. If your house is on well and septic, you would maybe want to get your well water tested to see if there, any high levels of iron is something that we find a lot in this region. So you'd want to get that tested. Also, if it's on septic, you may want to find out the last time they had the tank pumped out. So there are several inspections, and there are other environmental inspections as well. If you have children or yourself, we find a lot of people that may suffer from asthma. We ask them you might want to get a mold test. Now, of course, you have to understand that there's mold everywhere. So, but it's just, are there levels that you can tolerate? So.
Right.
Yep.
Great. Thank you.
Sure.
So someone has posted a question about inspections. How much does a basic home inspection cost?
So it depends on the square footage of the home, but I would say, just to say, if you had a 1,200 square foot Rambler, your home inspection may be $300. If you had a 10,000 square foot Colonial, sits on 2 acres, your home inspection may be about $900. So it just depends.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Tabitha asks, how far in advance before seriously looking should you go through the loan approval process? Or what is the usual turnaround time for securing a loan?
Oh, that's an excellent question. So if you are considering, I would say, let's just say you said, in the next 6 months or year, I want to purchase a home. You definitely want to reach out to a lender, because a lot of times there are things that may be on our credit that we're not aware of, or things might not be as bad as you think. And I'll just say, I had an instance where I was working with someone who came to me and said, I just need to find somewhere to rent. And I'm like, okay, fine. But the amount that they were going to spend in rent, they were like, I can pay up to $5,000 a month. And I'm thinking, $5,000 a month in rent? Like, that's a lot, to rent somewhere. And I said, well, why are you not considering buying? And they said, well, I just don't think I can. I think my credit is too bad or whatever. And I said, well, you know what? Let's just talk to a lender. Come to find out, they only had to pay like 2 things. They had 2 things that were impacting their credit. They were old. They just had to take care of those things and get the people, they wrote a letter, get the people to remove it from their credit, which it can happen. Like once you pay these are all things you have to talk through with the lender, and you have to talk to the creditor, but I'm just telling you things that can be done. So these are all things that can be done. But long story short, they were able to go and buy a house, and they were thinking this whole time that they couldn't. So you just never know. So I would just say, is if you think that you're going to buy a house within a year, talk to a lender.
Okay, sounds like good advice. All right, another question from Tabitha. Do closing costs increase with the price of the home or loan, or are they usually a fixed price? And if so, around how much?
Another excellent question, and they do increase with the price of the home because all of it is a percentage based off of the sales price.
All right. All right, Rihanna says, thanks for the great info. Are there advantages and disadvantages to getting an FHA loan versus a conventional loan?
The only disadvantage with an FHA loan is that you have private mortgage insurance that you have to pay for, and it stays with you for the life of the loan. Whereas with a conventional loan, oftentimes you can either pay the private mortgage insurance, you can pay it all up front and you don't have to worry about it on a monthly basis, or depending on if you're putting enough money down, you won't have to have mortgage insurance at all.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, Shilpa says, what is the room/range for the negotiation for a typical house as a buyer? How much of a lower price can we expect from the price listed?
Not in this market. Nothing. In this market, you should be asking, how much more am I going to have to pay to get the house? I mean, I'm serious. Right now in Prince George's County, we have less than a month's worth of supply of housing inventory. It's a very tight market. People are paying 10, 20. I've seen somebody go as much as $100,000 over the asking price.
Wow.
So you cannot expect in this market to pay anything less than the list price.
Right. Mm-hmm. These are almost unprecedented times. Huh?
Oh my God, yes. Yes.
All right. Becky says, doesn't talking to a lender cause a hard inquiry? I'm assuming she's talking about on your credit score, credit report.
She is. So here's the thing. Talking to a lender, no. Asking them to pull your credit so that they can give you a clear picture, yes. So, but you can actually talk to a lender and just say, look, I'm not going to give you my social because I don't want you to pull my credit, but I have questions. And so, they can give you some general information, like if my credit score, like if I know my credit score is 780, what's realistic for me and an interest rate? Because just know that your credit score impacts your interest rate. So.
All right, and she has a follow-up to that.
Yep.
About how many hard inquiries could one expect within the home buying process?
So it will only reflect as one if you do it within 30 days. So you can talk to probably 10 different lenders within a 30-day period. It doesn't impact you. It only impacts you if you talk to somebody today and then you wait 6 months and talk to another person.
Okay.
Hi, Melanie. This is Becky. I just wanted to pipe in here. So assuming that you get a pre-approval letter, those are usually only good for up to like 45 days, right?
Yes.
Okay. So as long as do you have to close, like get the pre-approval letter and then close within those 45 days for there not to be another hard inquiry, or you just have to have that pre-approval letter and they base it off of your credit at that point?
So
I've gotten mixed answers there on whether or not that would be one or if that would be two.
And honestly, Becky, it depends on the lender, because most lenders, not all, I don't like talking in absolutes because, there's always an exception, right? There's always that exception to the rule. So I don't like talking in absolutes. But I will say that most lenders, right before you go to closing, they're going to pull your credit again. But they don't care about that, that inquiry, because they know what they did.
True.
Right. So, but most lenders, and that's why I always tell my clients, like, if you're trying to buy a house, don't go buy anything else before you close. Like, do not go buy a house. Don't go furnish it. Don't do get the keys. Get the keys first. Then you can go do everything else. Yeah.
Okay. Good advice.
Yes.
All right. Here's a question from Bina. What kinds of tips would you recommend for shopping around for loans?
I would say, if I have a banking relationship, I would start with your banking relationship. Meaning, if you already bank with a credit union or, with a national bank, I would start there and see what they're offering, if you have a good relationship with them, and see. And then I might ask around, if you have an agent, ask them who do they recommend. And usually we have 3 or 4 or 10 that we can give you, and you can just call, because it's really important. It's like any other relationship, right? It's like, who's a good fit for you? So, like, I work with a team of people because I know I'm not a good fit for everybody, or should I say, everybody's not a good fit for me. I think I've been in the business long enough where I can read people, and I'm real good on when people are wasting my time, and I'm not good with people wasting my time. So,
okay, that's fair.
Yep.
All right, a question from Rihanna. So, is mortgage insurance different from home insurance?
Yes, that's an excellent question, and it is. So the mortgage insurance, if you remember, or you might not, I forget, you guys are young kids. But in 2008, you may have been 12, I don't know, when the mortgage crisis was going on, some of these loans did not have mortgage insurance on it. And bottom line is, the industry went through an overhaul. And so now, to protect against some of the things that have happened in the past, mortgage insurance has always been around. So let me put that out there. Mortgage insurance has always been around. It just wasn't always to where it is now, like with FHA, where it just stays on the loan. Because it used to be where if you had at least 20% equity in your home, you could get rid of the mortgage insurance. And that still is true, like with conventional loans, right? So like if you started out and you didn't put 20% down, but with the rate of appreciation over the past 3 years, a lot of people have been applying to get the mortgage insurance removed from their home. And if you purchased a house with an FHA loan prior to 2013, you can still apply to have that mortgage insurance removed. It's only for loans that were originated after, I believe it was July of 2013, that you no longer can just get rid of the mortgage insurance. Yes, so mortgage insurance protects the mortgage itself. Homeowners insurance, you have to get 2 types of homeowners insurance. Well, you don't have to, but you do have to get the lender insurance. That protects the lender in case anything happens to their asset, your home. The other type is for you as the borrower. And I'm saying you don't have to get it, but I strongly encourage you to get it, because if anything ever happens, like let's just say you've been living in your house for 10 years and then all of a sudden an heir who their grandparents owned the house 10 years before you, they show up and they say, I have this deed that I recorded, and I don't know why you're living in my house. And you guys are probably laughing at me, but I'm telling you, stuff like this happens. When you have mortgage insurance, it protects you from things like that, from people coming back and trying to lay claim or creditors. I mean, all kind of things happen with real property, as you can imagine. And especially as it's been transferred over the years, even sometimes the land itself, raw land, and it has been converted and developed, and now it has a house located on it, but you just never know what deeds or restrictions or whatever covenants may have been in existence on the land itself, and somebody may feel that they have claim to it. So having that title insurance for you as the homeowner protects you. So that was probably one of my long answers, but
No,
I hope you got it.
it was very clear. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Becky wants to know, is there an ideal time to buy a house? Fall, winter?
There used to be, Becky, before COVID, before the winter of 2020, I would have told you that for a home buyer, the best time to buy a home usually is in the winter, because that's when most people are not looking. So if you're looking for a deal, usually I would say that would be the time. But guess what? All those norms have gone out the window. People are so looking to change, their living in, oh my God, it's just crazy. And I know I just said I don't speak in absolutes, but I've not experienced anything like we've been in. And I tell people, I was selling homes in 2004, 2005, 2006, leading up to the crash, right? I wrote a book on the recession. But even then, at least there were houses. So even it was crazy and it was a frenzy, but you could go buy a house. When I tell you, there are no houses. They're literally, I have a client who specifically wants 4 full bathrooms, right? Every day I look in the system for 4 full in all of Prince George's County. If you want 4 full bathrooms, there are only 32 houses to choose from. There are close to 1 million people in this county, and there are only 32 houses to choose from.
Wow, so people are staying put for now.
Yes, because what you're finding, Debbie, because people have so much, the homes have appreciated so much, and a lot of people are sitting on equity. Mm-hmm. So what we're finding is that people are not selling. If they want to move, they just take money out of their house and go buy something else somewhere else, and they're keeping their house. And there was an article written recently about, are we becoming a nation of renters? Because more and more people are renting out their homes, and the people that want to buy can't. So they're the ones that are turning into renters.
Yeah. All right, here's a question from Anne. How can you determine how much down payment you pay? Is that a part of getting approved for a loan?
Yes. And it depends on the type of loan, because with an FHA loan, it's only you're only required to put down 3.5%. With a conventional loan, it depends. It just depends on the loan product that you are going after. With a VA loan, if you're a veteran, they don't have to put any money down. And with a USDA loan, which are for homes that are located in rural areas, usually they don't have to put any money down. So it really just depends. Yes. So yes, it all starts with the lender. Like I said, the lender, you need the lender in the very beginning, and you need them at the end.
Right. All right. It depends, once again.
Yep.
All right. Let's see. What would you say, this is from Ariel. What would you say to those who believe we are in a housing bubble and prices are inflated? Any signs that property values might go down in the future?
So that's the $1 million question.
Yeah, get out your crystal ball.
Right. I was gonna say that is the $1 million question, but our chief economist, Lawrence Yun, for the National Association of Realtors, he has said, and he's been pretty consistent with his answer for the past year, that we are not in a bubble. And while prices may flatten, meaning we might not see the great appreciation that we've seen for the past 2 years, but no one is seeing that prices are going to drop. Yeah, and it's anyone's guess.
Right.
It really is.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. I mean, I didn't see a global pandemic, but we have one. So who knows?
All right. Another question from Ariel. Do closing costs count as part of the down payment?
No. Those are separate. Your down
Okay.
payment is separate from your closing costs.
Can I
Okay.
ask a question piggybacking off of that? What is the typical percentage for the housing? For the closing cost?
I tell my clients to be prepared for like 4 to 5%
Okay.
of the home.
Okay.
Yep.
And Becky also asked if we could include the list of brokers in the follow-up email.
Mortgage brokers?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
So if you send that to me, Ms. Gamble, I'll put it in the email.
Absolutely.
Okay. And another question from Varen. How many times of your annual take-home pay should you buy a house for? I've heard you can generally go 4 times. Like if you make 100,000, then you can aim for a 400,000 house comfortably.
That's true. That's a good conservative number. That's another, it depends.
Right.
Because it depends on, are you going to put any money down? You know, are you going to put down 10, 20, 30%? How much are you actually financing? So that's really the question. It's not, you know, how much of a home you can buy, how much are you actually looking to finance?
Right.
So, but
talk to your lender.
4%, yeah, 4% is actually it's a good place to start. I mean, I said 4%, 4 times. Yep.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? I don't see any in the chat. And we've got 2 more minutes. Anything? Wow. Miss Gamble, you are good. You have answered all of the questions. I know we've just scratched the surface here, but you've done a really good job of giving us kind of the big picture, things to start thinking about when you're preparing to buy your house. So thank you so much for your time and this presentation. You're a wonderful resource. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you to everyone who's joining us live and those who are going to watch this on YouTube. No matter how you got this information, please share your feedback in our survey. We need you to reply to that. And finally, we've got tax workshops coming up over the next couple of weeks, and I know that's another hot topic. Next week on the 15th, there's a workshop for international students. And the following Tuesday on the 22nd is the workshop for domestic students. So I will see you in the next week or 2. Until then, have a good week and let us know how the legal aid staff can help you. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you.